Hey, folks, welcome back to the Land Fixer podcast. I'm your host, Logan Swanson, where we talk all things land. Today, we have a very, very exciting podcast. The first time I've actually brought on brokers or real estate agents. So today, we have the Texas landladies with us. We got Chelsea Robinson and Kaylee Sutton. Wave to the camera, say hi.
Hi. Hey.
Awesome. Perfect. Glad to have you on, folks. As usual, if you need to buy or sell land, go to primelandexchange.com. If you want to learn more about land investing, you're already at the right place. The landfixerpodcast.com. And if you need funding for any of your deals, buying, subdividing, anything like that, go to landpartnerfunding.com and we will be able to help you get all that stuff done. All right, let's get right into it. We have the Texas landladies here today. Chelsea, how about you kind of give us a little bit of an intro to who you are and what y'all do?
Hi, Logan. Thanks for having us on today. We're really excited as well. So a little bit about us. We are here in Central Texas. Our clients refer to us as the Texas landladies. We're known for our reputation of helping others buy and sell land. We love helping people achieve their goals, whether it be a house on an acre, a farm, an investor looking to develop and subdivide. We have actually successfully sold over 20 subdivisions, and we
Yeesh.
currently have 8 active subdivisions that have worked the entire process with us. And this is a process that we have kind of coined calling turning dirt into dollars.
That's perfect.
Like
Uh,
other realtors, I will say that. I know sometimes in your business, people are like, ew, realtors are all the same. A lot of the times we are told like we're not like other realtors because of that investment knowledge that we bring. So that's why people kind of have called us the Texas landladies over the years. And we will see a lot of people be bringing us their off market deals to tell us whether or not it could be a good one to flip.
yeah, awesome. And we're going to get really deep into that today because y'all are definitely, in my experience, very different from the average agent,
Mhm.
real estate agent or broker. And that's something that I've talked a lot about. It is really like needle in a haystack to find someone in Texas that really understands land and is willing to hustle. And y'all definitely check the boxes there. So first off, in case somebody trails off, how can folks reach out to you? Chelsea, how do they get in touch with you?
So if you're looking to find out if your property can be subdivided or what the process would look like, feel free to give me a call. My line is 512-657-3099. You can also look at what properties we do have available on our website, landunlimitedre.com.
Awesome, badass. Well, let's get right into subdivision. If anyone has looked at a big map of Texas, you'll see there's big squares of land, and there's also little tiny pieces of land. So you guys are the ones that take the big and make it into the little. Kaylee, tell me right now, what do you think are like the ideal things you're looking for when you're trying to determine if a property is, an ideal candidate for development or subdivision?
That's a great question. So we've made it into about a simple 3 to 4 step process. The first one that we like to look at is how much road frontage it has. Those diamond types properties are the ones that have two, maybe even three sides of road frontage. That just makes it easier for us to cut up. The second one, which is another big one, that's going to be access to utilities. We don't pay any attention to sewer just because we're mainly out in the rural parts of the county where we're dealing just with the county, and people will get septic systems later down the road. But water is a big deal. Really, the three ways you can get water is tapping into the public water line, or we'll have to drill wells. We've done a couple of subdivisions where we do shared water wells. And then the third one that we've had experience doing before is just selling it as rainwater collection systems only, which is really fun to negotiate with people on how it actually is a thing here in Texas that we can collect rain from the sky. And then the third one is going to be the amount of floodplain that it has. A little bit is okay. We're not too scared off if there's 20% in the floodplain. That's okay as long as we have a couple of buildable areas whenever we're looking at the future plat. And then the fourth one, which is going to be the most important as well, is the profitability. So making sure that you're subdividing in a market where we have supportive comps. What's 1 acre going for after we split up the big 100 acres, for example.
Yeah, and that's typically when we're looking to underwrite, that's viability, right? So you need to start with that retail value of the product that you're subdividing down to. And in Texas, being a non-disclosure state, a lot of people who are not brokers or agents really struggle to find that valuation. So Chelsea, maybe you tell us a little bit about how you really hone in on not only like what's a retail value for anything you're subdividing down to, but is that really what you listed at, or do y'all try to go to market underneath that to sort of move through things quickly?
So honestly, we do a lot of owner financing with our properties. So we tend to list a little bit higher than what the market value is, because if you can't afford a loan and owner finance is the option that you have, you can get a little bit more for your property. Just having that availability to owner finance it. It's really common in this market to be able to do owner financing, but those
Hmm.
are the properties that we see sell the fastest and for the highest per acre. And just getting someone in there, they have less credit checks or they don't really care what the credit looks like as long as they can afford the payment. And that's the quickest way to get those sold.
Yeah, so owner financing is a big deal for us. We do a bunch of owner financing. Um, and we found that in our business, we need to have like a whole, I don't know, ecosystem around how we're going to manage that. But for the average Joe Schmo, like this may be their only property, right? And if they're going to subdivide and owner finance that, like, what's the strategy to ensure that this doesn't just become a big burden for them managing these notes? Is there a third party service or something that handles that for them?
Yeah, no, that is a really good point in that we do have a third party servicing company that we recommend. There are others. We have a long list of RMLOs that we work with, and they will service the note for you. On the seller financing contract, there's a part that says will or will not be serviced and who pays for that. And it's about $25 a month typically. Don't quote me on that. The last time I did one, it was 25 a month. And
Yeah.
the buyer or seller can pay that every month and they just get it put in directly into their bank account. So they don't have to collect, they don't have to send out late notices, they don't have to keep track of every single property. Even if it's just one, I always just recommend for them to go ahead and use that third party so that they don't have to worry about it. They just get checks.
Yeah, and they also will escrow taxes and stuff like that, right?
They will. So if you're owner financing a property, you're likely paying your taxes monthly. So the title company or whoever writes your note, they will go ahead and tell you what they think that the taxes are going to be and pull that out monthly, whether it's like 75, 150, and they'll just add that into your note. It'll all be in your closing disclosure. So you'll know exactly what your payments are going to be before you close. And then at the end of the year, if there's a difference, you owe or you get paid back.
Awesome. Yeah, so then it kind of comes down to like, all right, we kind of determined the retail value. We think we can sell it for, for this amount, a little higher, maybe even if we're owner financing. Kaylee, when you're looking at a property, say you have 100 acres in rural Texas, are you going to subdivide that down to what, quarter acre lots? What is your typical size that you're going to subdivide that rural acreage down into, and how do you determine that?
Mhm. It's typically a minimum of 1 acre because that's what the county is going to require for the septic system. There are two other counties that we've done quite a bit of business in, Bell County and Bastrop County. They allow you to go down to half an acre. However, the trade-off that you typically have is whether or not you want to build a road. So if
Mm,
you have 100 acres and I mean you have 5,000 feet of road frontage, that's great. But then you still have to take into account of what the county ordinances are for minimum amount of road frontage. It's typically 150 feet of road frontage, and we've found over the years that people don't like long and skinny lots.
hmm.
And if you don't want to put a road in there, you're probably going to your plat is going to be most appealing for something larger like 5 to 10 acres. Um, we recommend going to the 1 acre if you can and putting that road in, just because of the price per acre is much higher for a 1 acre lot than it is a 10 acre lot. One property that I can give you as an example was here in the Lockhart-Luling area, which is where Chelsea and I do most of our business. It was a 54-acre property that we found off market, and it was about 18,000 per acre. And it had two sides of road frontage, no floodplain. There was a water line out the road, and so we put it under contract with a feasibility period. Of course, made sure that there was enough water meters. We wouldn't have to upgrade it. And what we did is we turned it around, and we were selling 1 acre right there for 120,000. Yeah, but the 4 acre lots, those only sold for, what was it, Chelsea, like 30 to 40,000 per acre. So you're still getting, you're still flipping the land for a good profit, but you want to go as small as you can because of what those 1 acres cost.
Yeah, that's interesting. And do you think that so you mentioned that it's different county to county. That's a big
Mhm.
thing. And then in your underwriting, you're kind of looking at the cost of like running a road and stuff like that, right? So you're able to weigh out everything. And if somebody owns the property and they're bringing it to you to act as the broker or agent on, are you going to do all this homework for them and be like, hey, running this road through is going to cost this much, survey is going to cost this much, and are you expecting them to do that cost, right? How does that usually work if they're bringing you a property?
Mhm. So currently right now, we aren't developers. We primarily are just facilitating the sales process. We do have that knowledge to where we can recommend the best surveyor to work with, the best engineer, but we don't actually act as the face of the project during the development process. So we're not meeting with the county for the client. We are educating them, we're hyping them up, telling them like we can even do pre-sales, but we aren't developers at the end of the day. We just know how it works. So I hope that answered it.
Yeah, so you're like in the corner, right? You're like, all
Mhm.
right, you're gonna be the boxer. We're in the corner, kind of like, spitting this bucket and throwing water on their face and everything and sending them back in. No, it's not that terrible though, right? I mean, these rural subdivisions, especially if you're dealing in like Texas County, um, I'm trying to remember. There's so they tend to be so like home like old back country. I remember I was calling one guy who was and maybe actually I'll ask you about this a little bit, but the structure of a county, right? Some counties will have precincts, and then those precincts each have a councilman, et cetera, and that councilman might be who you're talking to or whatever. And I remember I was trying to get in touch with one of them, and he listed his barn number as his means of contact. So if you wanted to call him, you had to call his barn and hope he was in there.
Oh, man.
But yeah,
Yeah.
maybe Chelsea, maybe you'll tell us a little bit about working with a county. Like, what does that process usually look like? I'm assuming there's some paperwork or something involved.
There is paperwork. So you have to call the county and get, what is the pre-approval meeting called, Kaylee? Planning and development meeting?
Yeah.
You
Each
have to
county
get a,
calls it development, but it's mainly a pre-development meeting.
yeah. And you have to tell them all of your plans, and they have to approve everything before you can get everything submitted and started. The whole process, I would say, takes about 3 to 6 months. So that is another thing that, again, having us in your corner, we're going to tell you what these timelines typically look like, what the process looks like, who to start, where to go from there. And really just basically hold your hand through the whole thing, walk you through it, and encourage you. And if you come up to a roadblock, we typically can help you find a way around it as well to keep moving forward. But yeah, we do say about 3 to 6 months for that process. Like Kaylee said, we do start pre-sales. So once we know what the property is going to look like, we have the plat and we're just waiting on final approval. This is something we have both done frequently. We get them under contract and we have it written that closing is contingent on the final plat being approved. So once the plat is approved, then we go to closing. Everyone's happy because they just finished getting everything approved and they've got some sold already. It's a
Yeah,
win-win.
I mean, that's incredible. Pre-sailing is pretty badass, honestly. And if you have a agent or broker that really understands that process, it's extremely useful. Because some don't, right? Some that are less experienced won't even really know how to put together a good pre-sale listing, may not even know how to fill out a contract well enough to like understand how to do all that and manage the funds and everything else. They might suggest like, oh, just get an LOI, but you can actually write that into the tract contract, right? The tract vacant land contract.
Yes. Or a
Yeah.
farm and ranch Yes, they have spots that we could fill that in.
Exactly. Perfect. Well, let's get a little bit into, when I was asking you to be on, one of my biggest questions for you, and something I've talked about a lot, is how do you vet a good broker or realtor, right? Because a lot of my listeners, they may not be in the Texas market. They may be in another market. But they need to sell their land, or they're looking to do their own subdivision. Kaylee, do you have any like helpful tips or tricks or points of guidance in finding a broker or agent that really understands land? How would you go about it if you weren't one?
So if how I would go about it is I would just see who is playing with land already. So if you go onto land.com, you can search the county or the city for the property that you have, and you can see like who is already in that game. Because land realtors, there's very few, and you can't just go to a residential realtor and think that they're going to give you the same level of service. Chelsea and I, we can do anywhere in Texas. And then we can also, once we start building a relationship, you'll see that we go above and beyond for our clients. So even if you came across a property in Tennessee, or another state, we could even find a realtor that we feel like would be a good fit for your project and refer you to somebody that passes our general test. But I think where I would start is just seeing like who's already selling land, and see how their marketing is too.
Mm.
So marketing is a big thing too. That
Yeah. And
even
Kaylee, that's exactly what I was going to ask. I was like, you can really tell who you shouldn't go with based off of their marketing. So maybe tell us a little bit about what makes good land marketing. And specifically, do all agents and brokers have access to the same listing and marketing platforms, or are the ones that you participate with that others may not have access to?
hmm yeah, if you see in a picture somebody's truck or like the Mira, that's the one not to go to. But what you should do and what you should see, your agent or yourself doing if you're going to market it yourself is drone photography, and then also the different platforms. So Facebook Marketplace is a good place to get free leads for marketing, and then to maximize your exposure, you're going to want to be on land.com, and then also being on the local MLSs as well as those other social media platforms.
I wanted
Yeah.
to add a to that too. So
Okay.
we actually have four MLSs. So we cover literally every single piece of Central Texas. We've got San Antonio, Central Texas itself is over 17 counties, and then the Austin, and then the Waco. So we have all of that, land.com, we have land ID links, we have Facebook Marketplace, it goes on all of our socials. Like we are extremely aggressive in our marketing. We have ads with athletics teams. Kaylee and I are actually working on getting a billboard in one of our market areas, on one of the main roads. And I mean, we just have really aggressive marketing. It's our best part of selling, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a big deal. I mean, I own a marketing company, so I understand exactly that it's not all the same. There are so many different ways that you can market a piece of land that most people just the average realtor's not going to think about, right? They're gonna be like, okay, this is, especially if they're like with a big agency or something like that, like Keller Williams agent is gonna be like, well, we put it on the MLS and then it goes to our buyers list and we sit back and the phone's gonna ring someday, and it's just not. It's not the same as if you have a team that's really out there trying unique stuff, getting in touch with the neighborhood. Um, and that kind of brings me to my next point, or my next question for you. And I think, who should I pick on this time? I'll go with Chelsea. Go back to Chelsea. When I'm looking to hire a broker or realtor on any sort of large project, in a market that I'm maybe not in the neighborhood of, this is very common for us. We work in markets that we don't live near. So one of the first questions I ask is like, all right, who do you know, right? Like, who is the list of contacts that a good broker or realtor is going to have, for anyone in this sort of land industry? What does that look like?
Oh gosh, we have a huge list. We have like a tab on our website actually for like contacts where you have good lenders for residential, for over 10 acres, for under 10 acres, because those are all separate for your lenders. We know septic guys, well guys, inspectors, like well inspectors, home inspectors. We know real estate attorneys in different counties. We know good connections with a whole bunch of title companies. Really anything that you need. We know counties, we know governors or mayors, like we know everyone out here.
Got the mayor in your pocket. That's good to hear. Yeah.
That was fun
Uh,
for Kaylee to find out.
um, yeah, so in my experience, a surveyor, like that's a big deal to have a good, affordable, like quick turnaround type surveyor.
Mhm.
Especially one that really understands the local record keeping. That's something like I actually had an episode of my podcast a little while back that goes in depth on what a surveyor actually does, and it's way more than you just go out there, right? Like you are writing a legal description that goes on all these legal binding, and you could be tasked with resolving some sort of boundary dispute. That is super common. All sorts of stuff like that. So surveyors are huge, land clearing. There's a bunch of little forced appreciation strategies, putting in a little road, culvert, all that sort of stuff. How about like oil and gas? I mean, are y'all buying and selling land with oil heads on it and stuff like that?
We do. I think Kaylee has more of those though. Go ahead.
Yeah, a couple of our subdivisions have active oil leases on them. And I mean, you've probably come across this multiple times. Like most of the time, you're not going to get 100% mineral rights, but you will get all the surface rights, and the seller will waive their ingress and egress. So we do, it's called a landman. I think interviewing a landman would be a great episode too. They're the ones that we always refer to if we need to track down exactly how much of the minerals are owned. The only resource that we have is getting a title commitment that's going to see what reservations have occurred in the past on this property, if there's any easements of previous, oil, gas, and mineral reservations. But the point that I want to, draw here is that it doesn't really matter if the property does have an active oil lease or even abandoned equipment. We can still sell it.
So you just work the subdivision around that, or have you ever subdivided land with like an oil operation on it?
We sell it
Yes.
with it existing.
Yeah. We we just tell people,
It's
you
not
can't.
forever.
Yeah, you can't fence out the oil company. So even if you have like a pump jack on your property, you can still fence it off, but you still have to allow the people to come check on it periodically. We wouldn't recommend building your house right next to it. Um, but yeah, people like the land will still sell. Those are the ones that we typically have to owner finance, because it's not everybody's first option to live
Hmm.
right next to a pump jack. And sometimes it smells. It's really common around here though, because we do a lot of business in Luling, and we typically tell people, if you don't see any oil on your property right now, it's probably because there isn't any. But if you wanted to get that investigated further, we would recommend working with a landman that can do some additional research.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I've only dealt with that a little bit. The closest thing I had, and I was just talking about this yesterday. I wish I could remember what county, but there's a county maybe in central or southern Texas that had just like this rampant issue with their oil jacks like stinking, and like half the county just reeked of sulfur. So I was looking for a new market to expand into, and I was like, man, these land prices are incredible around here. And I was kind of clicking around, what's going on here? Hopped up on Wikipedia and was reading through, and I was like, oh, there's like a pretty big issue going on here. Probably stay out of that market, right?
Yeah, yeah, I would
Uh,
I would recommend going and smelling the area and walking the land before purchasing it.
Yeah. But say you have an investor from not in the market, right? I mean, they can kind of count on y'all to visit and be boots on the ground and things of that nature. And maybe you could help us like understand a standard. The one of the biggest challenges I think with marketing and selling land is you are having to kind of like paint a picture, right? And Chelsea, maybe you can tell us about this. It's like you're selling land, but it's more like a blank canvas. Like most people have the intention of building on it someday, and there's your pond over there. And then you drive out to the property and you look at it and it's fully treed and you can't see 10 feet in, you know? So, do y'all have any suggestions on how you might be able to kind of improve or ham up the marketing a little bit on a piece of land to try to capture that romantic vision of what the property might be?
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely that's where your drone photography comes in because you will have several overhead shots. And so it's just undeveloped land. They're going to have to come in and clear and put their road where they want on something like that. Sometimes even the heavily treed ones, if they're a lot of acreage, do still have a road back. They just need to be cleared like where you'd want to put your home. Another thing that is really important when we're kind of showing them the vision is finding out what they want to do because a lot of property has deed restrictions or an HOA or something similar to that. So we need to know, are you looking to put a mobile home is the number one thing that we run into, a mobile home or an RV. So you're going to need land that allows whichever one of those that you want. And so we'll do that work for you guys before you even get out to see it. You'll know what's allowed, what the utility situation is like, what the price per acre is, what the taxes are. I mean, we'll give you all of the information beforehand, and you'll like, especially on our properties, you're gonna have overhead shots all the way through.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's incredible. Go ahead, Kaylee.
We're based in Austin too, so we're Chelsea and I we do drive a lot. That Waco to San Antonio stretch, which is already three hours between Waco and San Antonio, maybe even a little bit more than that. So as long as it's like a healthy distance, we are willing to be at those boots on the ground. But I just wanted to make sure people knew that we are based in Austin.
Yeah, that's definitely like a within reason thing, right?
Yeah.
You kind of have to like set those expectations.
Right.
Yeah.
I've gotten boots on the ground. I mean, out towards Kerrville, Comfort. I've got a subdivision out there right now. We've got subdivisions east of Lockhart and Luling, which is like Harwood Gonzalez area. We've got subdivisions in Salado coming up. We've got properties in Wimberley. Wimberley is my favorite market because that's my hometown. So that's where I put all of my ads. But yeah, I mean, I just tell anyone if it's like within an hour and a half of Austin, I'll go. But sometimes I go even if it's a little further.
Well, that's nice. Well, let's get into some kind of nerdy stuff. And this might be a little outside your wheelhouse, but I don't know who wants to speak on this. But one of the things that I really struggle with is the lack of institutional funding for buying and selling land. So, like, it's kind of hard to get a bank loan just over vacant land, right? Do y'all have any experience with sort of in tools or investment tools? Lending tools here in Texas that people can use for land, or any entities that you've worked with that do a good job?
Yes. I feel like we both have a similar answer to this. That's one of our links on our website is get pre-approved, and we have different lenders. So over 10 acres has to be a different lender. Like Capital Farm Credit, for example, can lend on over 10 acres. Under 10 acres is going to be a different lender. So we have good resources depending on on if it's over or under 10 acres. And then of course, if it's residential, like that's a different lender in itself.
Okay, and what does that usually look like? Say someone's buying over 10 acres. So say me, okay, well, I would do more developments if I had a good, because we've operated off lines of credit and stuff like that in the past. But if I could just go take a loan over this property, that would allow me to do a lot more work. So what does that look like? Kaylee, how about you?
Yeah, 15% down is typically what we're going to have to get, especially if we go to Capital Farm Credit, for example. They will do 15% down as long as the loan amount isn't over 1 million. If it's over 1 million, I think that's when they go up to 20%. So still somewhat reasonable. If you wanted to have anything lower, then you may have to look into some more private lending or like a hard money loan. And we have connections for those types of financial institutions, but we typically do like kick the ball over to them, and then we're just going to find the land for you. But that thing we just pretty much people's information for them to kind of figure out on their own.
Yeah, I think that's smart. Yeah, deal with what's in your wheelhouse. But it is good to know that you have sort of access to that and people that you can refer to, especially if they're kind of familiar with the business that you do, because it might make it a little easier in their underwriting if, say, we're buying a piece of land. Maybe we don't have a lot of experience, but we're working with the landladies over here. That's going to be our team to, help us, guide us through this whole development project. So, um, well, cool. What am I missing anything? I feel like we've covered a lot of topics here. Anything else that stands out to y'all as it relates to working with a broker, realtor, and land or subdivision that I might have missed today?
I think just a couple of additional points that I would want to point out about just the benefits of using a realtor. It's going to be like those contracts we were discussing that we are going to go over them with you, like page by page, and make sure you understand everything, including like your option period, protecting your earnest money, your feasibility period, etc. We did already touch on advising on county regulations. We can also help you avoid rollback taxes. You do not want to get hit with rollback taxes. So say you buy this 100-acre piece of land and you don't maintain your ag exemption, then you're responsible for 3 years of rollback taxes, which is the difference in what they paid and what they should have paid if it were not under an exemption. So we can kind of advise on, how to avoid that and continue your ag exemption. And the same for the new buyers, like we'll explain that to them as well to make sure that they continue their ag exemptions if possible. And then our marketing, just really making sure we're marketing the correct audiences. I feel like getting the correct realtor and getting the correct team behind you is really going to make or break the deal for you.
Mhm.
Yes, as someone who's paid rollback taxes, I agree. You should be very careful and thoughtful of that ahead of time. And actually, I did have one big question that I forgot to ask, but kind of one of the things that I think is on a lot of people's minds right now is what do you think's going on in the market right now? Can you talk about like the Texas market? We've kind of seen intermittent sales cycles. It seems like everybody will clam up, and then this last week, maybe there's this rate drop, and I think something's picked up a little bit. But Kaylee, can you give us like an overview of the Texas market right now, and maybe any specific areas that stand out to you?
Mhm. So the market area that stands out to me specifically is anywhere around an hour and a half out of Austin. We're seeing a lot of like large tech companies that are relocating to the Austin area. I mean, we saw Samsung, what they did to Taylor, Texas, for example. We expect there to be a large announcement in the Lockhart Luling area, which again is like 30 minutes outside of Austin. Most of our buyers, they're willing to drive an hour for a commute out of Austin. So paying attention to the Austin market, Hayes County, which is like where San Marcos and Kyle are, those, if you look at the trends, they're always up there for the fastest growing cities in Texas. But as far as what's happening in the market as a whole right now, we are seeing a lot of buyers stay on the sidelines because of the interest rates. There's currently, I feel like that there is more supply than there is demand based off of what people can afford. So down payment is one thing, and then the other thing is the monthly payment, of course, is uh, causing a lot of people to stay on the sidelines because everybody's in their ears saying, "Oh, but the interest rates are going to drop. It's going to go back to
Yeah.
2022." And the prices have come down. Sellers still have this mentality that their property is worth what things were selling for in 2022. But the reality is that if you want to sell right now, you're going to have to be priced under market because the buyers they're just not buying it. They're kind of like seeing through the lines, if you will, of what's happening with the economy. Most of our successful subdivisions right now are those ones that have the low down payments, and that they're offering owner finance. So I think that overall, people are listening to the media a lot, and
Mm,
they're looking at what's happening with the election, And
Yes.
elections are always really hard. So there's for land, it's very different than homes. So homes, you can kind of get away from the higher interest rates if you go new construction, for example, or you can negotiate for a seller to pay closing costs, which we are, even though we're the landladies, we still sell homes too. We kind of do it all. But the land, the interest rates, like a capital farm credit, they're still going to be around 8%, which
Hmm.
is high.
Yeah. Yeah.
The thing
Election
that
is
I like
really,
to go ahead.
go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Sorry, Logan. The thing that I like to point out about that is that we are currently in like what we would call a buyer's market. So I do still like to encourage like buyers. This is a really great time because you're going to get it at a price that you won't get it at when the interest rates drop, and you won't have as much competition right now as you will when the interest rates drop. And when that happens, you're going to be competing and having to pay over, and your monthly payment is going to end up the same, if not more, than if you would have just purchased now and had that equity and refinance. Like as we see it is dropping, and so when it goes down even more, like there's going to be more competition. So Kaylee and I have seen a huge heat up in the company, even just like since August. And we were just discussing the other day, like we think 2025, especially like the coming spring market, is going to be really hot. So we're excited.
Nice. Okay. Well, I think that's good. I think we've done it. Texas landladies, you've been so nice. Thank you so much for talking with me today. Let's do one last plug. Chelsea, how can they reach out to y'all?
You can reach out to us 512-657-3099, or you can check out some of our properties on landunlimitedre.com. You can call or text that phone number.
Badass. I'll keep that in the show notes as well, folks. And as usual, if you need to buy or sell land, go to primelandexchange.com. Learn about land, you're already here. Landfixer.com is the way to go. And if you need some funding for flipping land, go to landpartnerfunding.com. With that, Chelsea, Kaylee, thank you so much for your time today. And we look forward to talking to you. Let's try to do this again in 6 months.
Let's do it. Thanks for having us, Logan.
All right, cheers.